It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. What's up? What's happening? Happy Monday. And how you feeling?
I'm feeling fantastic, man.
Love that. Love that. Super producer Anthony Haney there. Craig Hoffman here. Welcome to the program. You're probably thinking we're going to start the show with March Madness thoughts. And we can do a couple. But Anthony, this is an internal debate that I have sometimes with myself of like, how much for the show do I need to go out and make sure that I am consuming the things that other people are watching? And how often do I just punt on those things and throw up my hands and go, this is not my specialty. This is not what I know about. And just be honest with the audience and say, I could give you some thoughts on March Madness. I could sit here. I could read someone else's analysis. I could give them credit or worse, pass it off as my own. I could look at some Ken Palm numbers and sound really smart about the bracket. Or I can just tell you that I've watched 10 minutes of college basketball all year. I'm excited to fill out my bracket and see what happens. We will bring on have our annual visit, I believe tomorrow, with Kevin Brown, voice of the Orioles, but also college basketball announcer for ESPN, where he'll tell us a bunch of smart things. I think on Wednesday we might try to link up with Denton and let him tell you a bunch of smart things. I think we're going to try to record in Denton's office, if you know, you know, after he gets done with Kevin's show. And tell you that we're going to get the things that you want from the info without me having to fake like I know a damn thing about any team in this tournament, specifically on the men's side, and more than about 5 teams on the women's side.
Nice.
That's where I'm at.
It's all good. I mean,
I will say I'm looking forward to the tournament this year.
Oh, for sure.
Which is something that is, and you're a big reason to thank / blame, whichever one you want that to be for that, because you have said this tournament's going to be way better than the previous ones.
Yes, I'm excited. I think the men's and women's bracket is definitely going to be exciting. Even over the weekend, like all the tournaments that went on, like all of those, the buzzer beaters, even Maryland's loss. I'm still not over that one.
That was crazy. That I did see. Like on Instagram, I didn't see it live, but I saw what happened. Man, I don't know how much more total heartbreak we can get in one season.
Dude, the amount of buzzer beaters.
The good thing is, Maryland fans, at most you can only have one more loss. We are in the time of year where you got one loss left. Now, I don't know how heartbreaking that loss could be. Obviously, the sooner it happens, the more heartbreaking it will be, no matter what the variety, whether you get your doors blown off, whether you lose by a nice, easy 10, or whether it's another heartbreaker. But, oh, my God, has Maryland lost some ridiculous games this season.
Yeah, their last 4 losses have all, come within the final 8 seconds of a game, and 2 of them, buzzer beaters. 3 of them, actually. So, it sucks.
Yeah. So, maybe law of averages, spin that around the other way. Terps, they got a lot of. I hope that they get airline miles. Terps fans, if you're going to stack up on airline miles.
Yeah.
Going to Seattle and then San Francisco.
Yep.
You make it the second weekend. Where's the Final Four this year? I should know. I know the women's is in Tampa.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so
I will be watching though.
Yeah, I mean I'll watch too. I'll watch March, and also like 8 of the top 10, 7 of the top 10 roughly prospects in the most NBA draft big boards. Like they're actually going to be in the tournament this year.
Yeah.
Who was the first college player that went in the draft last year? Reese Arche, Sarr. Who's the third pick?
I think it was Stephon Castle to the Spurs.
To the Spurs at 5. Yeah. So this year, Flag's going to go 1. The 2 Rutgers kids are going to be somewhere in the top 5. They didn't make the tournament, but how do you have 2 top 5 NBA players and not make the tournament?
Yeah, people come on trying to say their teams. I'm like, dude, you have 2 top 5 guys. Like,
it's
the
basketball.
Rest of your team doesn't matter.
40% of the team is going to be in the NBA next year.
Exactly.
And you can't make the tournament? What are we doing? Also, why did you go to Rutgers? Maybe these things are related. So, yeah, women's tournament's going to be bonkers as well. I think there's more teams that can win the women's tournament than maybe any women's tournament I can remember. Notre Dame's a 3 seed. They got they have 3 or 4 future top 5 draft picks.
Yeah. I mean,
Citron, Myles, their centers, a future pick. Like they're starting backcourt. They're starting backcourt. Citron and Myles or I guess two of their three guards
Yeah.
are going to be top 5 picks probably this year. And then Hidalgo will be one whenever she comes out.
Yeah, she'll be 1 or 2. She's nasty.
Yeah. They have some bigs that are also, and they're a 3 seed. UConn, I think, you and me and Linnell were yelling at each other in the hallway about them. They should be a 1 seed, but the 4 1s are all really good and all could win it. UConn could win it as a 2. TCU's floating down there with Haley Van Lith, last seen by a lot of folks who haven't watched in a year, getting torched by Caitlin Clark because Kim Mulkey left her on an island like an absolute abdication of her duty. She just bounced back after transferring to TCU and was the Big 12 Player of the Year, so they're pretty good. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. But Anthony, I told you that for us, and I'm going to tell you what we are going to start this show with in a second to the listening audience. But sometimes I spring surprises on Anthony, and he knows there's a game coming later in the show. He does not know what the game is yet. Anthony, would you like to know what the game is?
Sure, let's go.
Okay. I was kind of hoping you say that. Otherwise, we don't really have another 2 minutes of content in us here to fill the rest of the segment. I think we're still doing this at 6. The way the rundown shakes out.
Either 5:30 or 6. One. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, one of the.
I think we're gonna do it. I think we're gonna do it at 6.
All right.
So here's the game that we're gonna play. That you just heard was for me about the extent of my NCAA tournament knowledge. Anthony does have more because he actually pays attention to college basketball. So I was like, how can we have some fun with this where we can have a little competition and we're on somewhat of an even playing field? Anthony's a smart person. Sometimes I wonder how much attention he paid in school and how much attention he's paid outside of school.
Okay.
So here's what we're going to do. I haven't decided the mechanism yet, and this is why I want to run this by you now. And people can, drop their comments in the YouTube chat or, DM us or whatever to implement here. But I would like to play a game where someone names a school, and then there's a certain amount of points available based off how much information you can say about the school. Their mascot, where they're geographically located, players on the roster, the coach. So, we'll finalize the categories. And then the question becomes, Anthony, do we challenge each other or do we take calls and people can throw a school at us from the bracket?
I think we challenge each other.
That's kind of my lean. But then we can't look them up, anything up ahead of time.
I'm not going to look anything up.
Because I would hate to be looking up a school for my next one and then you throw that school and I'm like, well, the information's right in front of me. So we will finalize the rules of the game. But at 6 o'clock, we're going to play a game. And it's going to be entertaining. Good? Questionable. Entertaining? We gotcha. Coming up next, though, football. That's where we thrive. And I think this is a fascinating discussion. The news of the day in the NFL is that Jamarr Chase and T. Higgins have both signed monstrous contracts. Derek Stingley Jr. also signed the second biggest cornerback contract in the league behind Pat Surtain. So with Chase specifically resetting the receiver market and becoming the highest paid non-quarterback in the league, my question to you is this. If you could pay any non-quarterback in the league, who would it be? We've got some names, some of which are already getting paid at that level, Garrett and Chase. But who else would you add to the list? Which non-quarterback would you be willing to pay quarterback money? 301-230-0980. 301-230-0980. Anthony and I have some names to banty about and some positions, like which positions are actually worth paying. So we'll get into that next on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the team at 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube too at the team 980. Jamarr Chase paid $40 million per year over the next couple of years by the Cincinnati Bengals, taking Duke Tobin's promise, their general manager at the NFL Combine, that he would become the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. Of course, that became a lot harder to do after Myles Garrett got paid $40 million a year to gross sack quarterbacks by the Cleveland Browns, thus keeping him in Cleveland, at least for now. So the question that I have is two parts, Anthony. One, is there any non-quarterback that's worth quarterback money? Is there any other position player that can make the kind of impact that a quarterback can make on a game? If so, who? And is it like position dependent? Is it the actual player? Because I think that's another fun side to this argument is, are there certain positions that are more valuable? Generally speaking, yes. But are there certain players that maybe override their position that you're just like, that guy's so good, I don't care that he's playing X position. He changes the game on that level. So it's a lot of questions. But it starts off with, is there anybody that you would pay not top of the market quarterback money, because no one is making 60 the way that Burrow and Allen and those guys are right now. But is this a mistake to pay Jamarr Chase or Myles Garrett $40 million? Because I tend to say the answer is no.
I mean, the only other person, the person that comes to mind, like quickly, and everybody's been anticipating, when he's going to get paid, is Micah Parsons. Like, the dude's been in the league 4 years. He's a 3-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler. The guy, consistently racks up 12, 13, 14 sacks a season. So he's been, wreaking havoc, just like, that of Myles Garrett and, the Max Crosbys of the world who also just got paid. So he immediately comes to mind. He's young. He's still in his prime, and I can give him a blank check, dog. Like, he is that good. And he's durable. Like, last season he missed 4 games, but like outside of that, he pretty much like played in every single game.
Yeah, he's been fantastic throughout his career, and it's remarkable just how good that guy has been, considering he wasn't the top pick like Myles Garrett. Everyone knew that Myles Garrett was going to be Myles Garrett because they don't make dudes that are his size that move like that on like anywhere outside of Myles Garrett. Micah was a guy that was playing off-ball linebacker, and it's like we know he's a physical freak. He runs a 4.3. He's got this broad jump. He's explosive. All this stuff. There's a couple questions. He had a kind of a hazing adjacent incident at Penn State that caused some character concerns, and I think there were some other character concerns with him as well, depending on who you asked. But it was also, is this worth it for an off-ball linebacker who we think can rush the passer? And Dan Quinn gets his hands on him in Dallas, and eventually they're like, you're not an off-ball linebacker. Like, you can play that and be good at it, but you're the best at this rushing thing, and this is perhaps, outside of being quarterback, the most valuable thing in the sport. And I think that is kind of the other question is, like, if we agree that quarterback is the most valuable thing in the sport, what's the next most valuable thing in the sport? Is it getting after the quarterback? Or is it supporting the quarterback? Because the two positions that now have $40 million a year players are edge rusher with Myles and Jamarr going and helping the quarterback, being a quarterback's best friend, the receiver that just won the Triple Crown. And I would wonder if there's any other positions that are going to come up here as we talk about whether, like, is Pat Surtain, like, how much is Pat Surtain worth as the best corner? Because corners, like, they're hard to find because there's also a rarity there. So how valuable is it to have a legit dude? But I would also say for corner, my answer would ultimately be no, because corners don't seem to be scheme-proof or age-proof. Like, that age cliff comes quick, and I would hate to be caught on the wrong side of it unless you get a guy that's, like, all of a sudden signing at 24 and your D coordinator, like, your D coordinator is your head coach. Like, if I'm the Patriots in 2000 and whatever, where I'm in the middle of the Belichick years and he's not near the end where we think Belichick is going to be gone. But if I know Belichick is going to be there, okay, fine, our defensive scheme, our defensive system is not changing. If I'm the Broncos now, like I have an offensive head coach. My defensive coordinator is Vance Joseph. Could he get hired for a head coaching job again? He could. Probably unlikely, but he could. And if that's the case, is Pat Surtain as valuable in another system? Probably. He's probably the one guy I would bet on, but I don't feel as good about that as I don't care who the defensive coordinator is. Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, those dudes are going to ball the blank out to the point that I would give them that kind of money. 301-230-0980 is the phone number. There was one other name that I thought of that actually our first call has as well. Vic's in Akakeek. Vic, thanks for calling. You are on the Hoffman Show. Who do you got in this proposition, this argument?
What's up? So Jalen Carter, I know he's not been in the league that long, but with the criteria that you gave, he doesn't need anybody else to help him be effective at his position. He controls the defensive line and the offensive line all by himself. He's a physical freak, and I think he's still a baby as far as even really understanding the game. He's doing this off sheer power, will, and talent. I have no problem giving him a blank check. It sucks for me to say this as a guy who bleeds burgundy and gold, but Jalen Carter is it for me. Also,
yeah.
Vince from Akakeek, not Vic from
Akakeek. Sorry. I read the call screener wrong. I got you, Vince. I appreciate the call, and apologies for messing that up. That's 100% on me. That's not on Anthony. That's on me. I own it. But Vince, appreciate the call.
It's all good.
Thanks, man. And Gary, I guess in Upper Marlboro, has the same guy. Gary, go ahead. Why did your mind immediately go to Jalen Carter?
Because he's dominant already. I mean, this guy, they let all those other guys go on the defensive line because they know this kid is it. I mean, he's a really, really good player already. And like the previous caller said, if you leave him one-on-one with 80% of the guards in the league, he's going to beat them. But since he already said that, another guy that I think is a sleeper that is going to be a problem for us in many, many years, Malik Neighbors for the Giants. I think that kid is going to be super. And he's probably not ready to get up there with Jamarr right now, but I think after next couple of years, if he can stay healthy, I think he's the next superstar wide receiver in the league.
Gary, I think those are two phenomenal names. It kind of sucks that they're two guys that are young on other teams in the NFC East. But then again, I think, maybe not the Eagles. The Eagles are probably fine where they are. But the Giants would certainly trade Malik Neighbors for Jaden Daniels. So I think it's important to remember that we got the guy in this conversation. But Gary, thanks for the call. And the other thing I like, Anthony, about Jalen Carter specifically in this conversation and why he was my answer to this question, certainly once you get past Micah, like he's Myles, definitely. Micah, yup. Jamarr, probably worth it. Justin Jefferson, probably worth it. Those guys are, I think, the obvious ones. Jalen Carter plays every snap. And that is the hard part about paying a non-quarterback at any of these other positions that we've mentioned. Okay, offensive line. Is there currently an offensive lineman in football that moves the needle that much? I don't think so at this point.
I think Tristan Wirfs, but he already got paid.
Tristan Wirfs, well, that's the thing. We're taking off, the current contracts. Good job, Tampa. You got him at a discount. I think Wirfs is probably the best answer, but there is a level that Wirfs will never get to that Trent Williams was at in his prime. And that's not a shot at Tristan Wirfs because Tristan Wirfs is an all-pro and a deserving all-pro. But Trent Williams in his prime is a guy that you could game plan for as an offense. That you could say, there's stuff we ask him to do that if he's not in the lineup, that play's not in our playbook. There's sets of screens and things like that where we'll run a wide receiver screen to a side of the field to a receiver with Trent out in front that we can't ask another lineman in the whole league to do. So Trent in his prime, sure. Anyone else right now, I don't know along the offensive line if there is. So once you take out offensive linemen and quarterbacks, the only other positions that play every snap are true off-ball middle linebacker types, safeties and corners. So now, are you willing to pay $40 million a year for a guy that doesn't play every snap at receiver or edge? That's a tough question. Well, if I tell you that Jalen Carter is going to play every single snap because he played 100% of the snaps in most of the games last year, I think there was 7 weeks in a row where he played 100% of the snaps. Well, that becomes a different thing, which is why I like that answer so much. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Essentially, the question is this: who are the most valuable non-quarterbacks in the NFL? We were discussing with you more on the phones next. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Coming up 5 o'clock, going to be joined by my pal Tom Haberstroh. Truth be told, we actually talked earlier today. There's no hiding the fact that this interview is taped, Anthony, because Tom said something that I had to bleep, which was fun. He's like, I don't know if I can cuss on this program. I was like, you can because we're taping, Tom. But remember, even though we're talking in a Zoom, this is going to be on the radio. The radio. Yeah. Can't say that you can't directly quote quite like you directly quoted But Tom's a great NBA analyst, used to work for ESPN. He has been writing a newsletter for a couple years now called The Finder, which is fantastic. But, Anthony, he's also part of the Blazers TV broadcast, does some special stuff for them. And so tonight, the Wizards and Blazers are playing, and I thought that was a good reason to revisit the Deni Avdija trade, which is obviously one of the biggest kaboom moments of this entire detonation of the previous Wizards roster. And so it was a really interesting conversation to hear how Deni has really come alive in the last couple of weeks here, how happy they are in Portland with how he's played, how they've played, even though they've had a pretty rough season in some respects, but they're starting to turn things around. And also looking at it then from the Washington side and why this truly was, I think Tom and I ultimately agree in the end, a win-win for both sides. So Haberstroh coming up at 5 p.m. Right now, though, let's keep going with our conversation. 301-230-0980. 301-230-0980. Who are the most valuable non-quarterbacks in the NFL? That's the question. Who are the guys that you'd be willing to pay a whole lot of money if you were given the chance, like mid-level / low-level quarter, Sam Darnold money, the artist formerly known as Daniel Jones money, that $40 million range where last week, Myles Garrett signed, and then last night, Jamarr Chase signed. Let's go to Saeed. Saeed, thanks for calling. As always, you're back on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
The guy that I see as just a straight problem is Jared Verse for the Rams. This guy, I almost think there's a reason why he's not playing with like Aaron Donald, because I think it would be unfair to have. Aaron Donald even said that he's kind of like him a little bit if you made him into a linebacker. This guy went into Philly, forget all of his stats, went into Philly telling the fans he hates the Philadelphia fans. They put him on the big screen. And when they said, aren't you afraid what they'll do? He said, they don't touch me, and that offense can't stop me, that offensive line. Talk trash to the offensive line. Went in, got 2 sacks in the first half on Philadelphia. And on top of that, talked trash to Jalen Carter before the game and was like, oh, well, this guy is a problem. And I'm telling you, I wish we can get this guy somehow in a couple of years. He's a problem, and I think he gets a blank checkbook from me.
It's a really compelling call, Saeed. Thanks. I appreciate that a lot because it's one that's outside the box. Like you're definitely. Am I ready to give Jared Verse $40 million a year right now? If I'm the Rams and I'm like, I can lose Jared Verse or give him 40. Well, if I put it that way, Anthony, if I'm losing Jared Verse or giving him 40, I'd probably just give him 40.
Yeah.
And, like, even that list is small. Like, think about it. How many – I'm trying to think of someone besides who I'm thinking of right now on the Commanders because I don't want to do this to him. I'll go another Ram. $40 million or Puka Nacua. If you have to cut him, you're losing him. Or pay him $40 million.
That's tough.
Right. Right. That's the point. I was going to say Terry for the Commanders.
That's crazy.
Right. Like, you'd be like, I love that dude. He's everything we want. He's an amazing player. We can't pay him $40 million. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And Jared Verse, you'd be like, I don't know, he's a pass rusher. He's unbelievable. He's everything we want. Yeah, screw it. Like, that adds a couple guys to the list, but not many. It's $40 million. And that's the thing. I do think we need to get over the sticker shock of some of these deals, right? Some of the sticker shock of these deals is very simply our brains have not adjusted to the new salary cap, right? We don't, like, the $40 million a year now is like 32 a couple years ago or 35 a couple years ago because the cap has gone up so much. Let me see if Myles Garrett's contract has hit yet. Jamar Chase's has not hit over the cap yet. But I want to see. Oh, God. There's a lot of numbers here. Okay, $40 million in 2027 is the current cap hit. This will at least get the information I want. So in 2027, they're estimating that will be 13.2% of the cap. Okay? When Daniel Jones signed his deal with the Giants, right? That deal a couple of years ago was when did he ever count cap number? Oh, he never actually counted for $40 million a year. See, all this money is fake, Anthony. That's the problem. Cash paid, $46 million. Cap number, 15. And then he got traded to the Vikings in year 2.
Good gracious.
So he's got a cap charge in 2024 of $47 million, but it's not on this little sheet that I need it to be on. But it's going to be in 2023, it was $15 million, double that, plus another half. It's about 15% of the cap. So we're dropping 2-3% of the cap every year because we're adding another $20 million. And that's the thing, is like, from a cap percent standpoint, and because there's two numbers that we're dealing with here. We're dealing with cash, which I don't care about because I am not in the business of counting other people's money, at least in terms of this show, the analysis piece, right? I am in the business of saying, how does this help or hurt the football team? Because that, to me, is fair analysis. I'm not in it to put a moral judgment on whether or not people should be paid $40 million a year to play football, right? That's a different conversation. That is interesting, but that's not the one we're having. From a salary cap standpoint, how do you structure these deals in a way that allows you to build the best team possible? And actually, that's something I want to talk about next, because while the Bengals should ultimately be applauded for being able to keep these two guys, the reason we're having this conversation is Jamarr Chase signs for $40 million. T. Higgins, somewhere in the 30-ish range. Total, the average annual value over the next couple of years would be around $68, almost $70 million. But what was the cost of the Bengals doing business the way they did? When you hear they signed Jamarr Chase too late. Let's dive into that and why it's so important to be proactive and why I think that actually gives the Commanders some hope for the future next on the Team 980. But first, a look at what's trending. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. Anthony, I just saw our guy Max. Yeah, you see our guy Max. Just walking down the hall with a baseball bat.
He's walking down with a...
It's like a wiffle ball bat.
Serious, too, though.
Yeah, he did. He was sauntering this way. He veered. I don't know where down the hallway. Engineering better watch out. But he had a serious, almost upset look on his face, and he's got a wiffle ball bat. Max is a big guy. Looks like he could do some damage. Hurt. Yeah. I mean, they don't hurt as bad as like a baseball bat.
It stings.
But they not sting. They stang.
Yeah.
And I want to know where he went.
I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of, that bat. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Just going kind of huff, puff, chest out. And I was like, is this something I said? Nope, apparently not. Kept it moving. Coming up 5 o'clock, Tom Haberstroh with us to talk about the Deni Avdija trade as the Wizards and Blazers play tonight. How's it worked out for both sides through the top NBA analysts' lens? But, Anthony, the Cincinnati Bengals have re-signed Jamarr Chase and T. Higgins, which ultimately I think we can agree is a good thing.
Yes, great thing.
Yeah, they're a better football team if their offense is disgusting than they would be if it's not. And while Joe Burrow can certainly make a lot of good players better, you can't make anybody into Jamarr Chase. He took Jamarr Chase, one of the best talents, and made him into the Triple Crown winner. Pushed like 2,000 yards receiving. Like what they did last year was crazy. And especially there's more value, I think, with those two being together because they go back to college and they have even an extended chemistry together beyond just the typical, Justin Jefferson's worth every penny he's being paid in Minnesota, but he's not necessarily worth more to Minnesota than he would be if he went somewhere else. Chase is worth more to Cincinnati with Burrow than he would be if he went anywhere else because of the relationship that he has with the quarterback. Jamarr would be worth a ton other places, but he is, to keep Joe happy and to get the absolute best out of both of them, they need each other. But that fact has been true for a long time. And I think that's the thing that's like mind-blowing about this. Was there ever a point in the last, since Jamarr Chase was drafted, that you didn't think the Bengals should keep Jamarr Chase long-term?
No.
Is there ever a point where in the last couple of years the cap didn't look like it was going to rise and that contracts would continue to rise with it?
Yeah.
No, there's not. Like the cap was always going up and contracts rise.
Constantly going up.
Yeah. So there's no point where they reversed course. Where it's like, receivers cost less now.
Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. They could have given him a contract extension last year. At that point, Justin Jefferson, had they beaten Justin Jefferson to getting it done, they would have been paying him about $35 million. They just signed him for an average of 40. Think of how many good players the Commanders got and plenty of other teams got for $5 million.
You got a couple. I mean, even last year, we had a whole bunch of guys on 1-year rents. We had Dante Fowler, 1 year, $3 million, and he gave us 10.5 sacks. So you can do a lot with $5 million.
Right. And so if you're telling me every single year you got a $5 million extra credit bonus, why wouldn't you want that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they cost themselves on Jamarr Chase alone. Nevertheless, what they cost themselves with T. Higgins, who they gave the franchise tag to last year, a fully guaranteed deal. So you can't mess with the structure. You can't do anything fun with it or funky with it to try to manipulate the cap. You just pay him all the money week by week, 100% guaranteed. Now, with Jamarr Chase, did they save money last year? Probably. Last year, Chase made, he was on his 4th year of his rookie deal, so he made $9 million against the cap. But they also could have, signed an extension and had the money start in 2025. They would have had to pay some of the signing bonus money up front. But that's the thing. The reason that the Bengals didn't want to do it was because they didn't want to pay the cash. It seems like they always never want to pay the cash. But you pay more in the long term. They paid him all the cash now, and it's cost them $5 million more per year. So, like, on one hand, credit to the Bengals for getting this done. On the other hand, look at how much the Eagles have gotten done because they sign guys as soon as possible. And this is what I don't understand. Why doesn't every NFL team operate this way? Unless you're planning on selling the team soon, where you're like, I don't want to pay that money. I don't want that cash to come out of my account. You're going to have to pay it anyway. And unless, like, I'm not saying every single player you do this, but if it's a guy who no brainer is going to be on your team. So we're talking your top flight others. And obviously, if you have a franchise quarterback, you should pay that guy as soon as possible. Not necessarily the top of the market, although if it's Jamarr Chase, you're going to have to pay top of the market. But, like, pay them what they're worth on the current market, knowing that 2 years from now, you're going to be on a bargain. And, like, that's what happened to, for instance, let's even use this one. I have this one pulled up. Justin Jefferson. Okay? Justin Jefferson's number in 2025 was $15 million on the cap because they did a low base salary in year one. Currently, Justin Jefferson is scheduled to make, he made $8 million in year one. 2025, year one, I believe, of his extension, he is going to make $15 million against the cap this year. He is currently scheduled to make $38 million in 2026, $43 million in 2027, and $47 million in 2028. He will sign another extension. They will move some of that money around and bring those numbers down before then. But even if they were to not, even if the Vikings were just like, actually, this works out for us with our cap situation for whatever reason, right? They're estimating over the cap, this is where these numbers are coming from, that in that 2027 year where he makes $43 million, it's 14% of the cap. That's a lot, but it's not crazy. And in 2026, when he's going to make $38 million, that's a number that's more realistic. They'll probably start moving money around after that season. After 2026, they'll restructure for 27, 28, probably extend him, add a couple years, get him to like his age 32 season. Currently, the contract is scheduled to go through his age 29 season. You probably wind up paying him that $38 million. That's now less than the AAV of Chase's deal. And they signed it last year. So it just shows you that, like, yes, are these deals very expensive? Absolutely. But Devontae Smith reset the wide receiver 2 market a couple years ago. He's going to make $5 or $6 million a year less. We'll see what the final numbers are on average than T. Higgins is going to make.
Did you see how much money the Bengals are paying Jamarr and T versus what the Eagles are paying AJ and Devontae?
Yep.
Almost $100 million differential.
Yep.
Which is crazy.
Yep. And the thing is, will then the Eagles have to pay those other guys sooner? Sure. So eventually some of that will catch up.
Yeah.
But you're always, the sooner you can do it, the more ahead of the curve you are.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, even sometimes within a single offseason, you want to be the first guy, the first team, you want to be the last player. Because you want to let your compadres at the other positions reset the market. Part of the reason, by the way, Myles Garrett or Jamarr Chase gets done now is Myles Garrett gets done at 40. What would have happened, though, if they had gotten Jamarr done last year? He's probably making closer to Justin Jefferson's 35 number than Myles Garrett's 40. And what does that cost you? Multiple starters? For a team that needs talent? less than ideal. Less than ideal. So, needless to say, let's hope Adam Peters and Josh Harris are willing to pay the cash up front to be able to manipulate the cap later, and I do think that is how they are going to operate. Coming up next, the Wizards made some financial decisions around Deni Avdija. They decided this contract's amazing, so let's sell high and see how many assets we can get in return. Blazers were like, we'll take that, thank you very much. Those two teams are facing off tonight, so that felt like a good excuse to call up my guy Tom Haberstroh, former ESPN NBA analyst, current analyst for the Blazers on television, as well as a writer who has a great newsletter called The Finder, and talk about the Deni Avdija trade almost 10 months later. So Haberstroh with us for Not My Beat next. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Coming up 5:30, Laremy Tunsil spoke to the media today. You'll hear some of what he had to say. Newest commander ready to go for Washington here in a couple weeks when OTAs open. Of course, we got the draft. Before that, we'll be doing plenty of draft coverage over the next couple of weeks, including a chat later this week with my pal Eric Edholm of NFL.com. But speaking of really smart people that I love having on the show, I had an idea over the weekend as I was looking ahead to this week and saw the Blazers and Wizards on the schedule. And I was like, this feels like a good time to revisit the Deni Avdija trade. And luckily, someone I've gotten to know for quite a while is a part of the Blazers TV crew, and I think he's one of the smartest guys writing about basketball. And that brings us to today's Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Wizards and Blazers in action tonight. Of course, you could hear that game here on your home for Wizards basketball, the Team 980. And joining me to talk about what I think is a bigger story between these two teams, considering where they are at the standings and where we are at the calendar, is Tom Haberstroh, who is a great NBA writer and analyst. The Finder is his newsletter that you can get just delivered personally to you. He comes and hands it right to your inbox as often as he writes it, but also he's an analyst for the Blazers TV coverage. So I wanted to bring Tom on to talk about the trade that is about 10 months old at this point, Tom. The Deni Avdija trade. I remember doing our draft coverage last year, getting that news like right as our radio show, like this show ended, and we transitioned into, okay, hi, I'm the same person, but now we're in the draft show. And that's when that trade went down. And I still get a ton of like YouTube comments from Blazers fans and from Deni fans about what we said that night and kind of the Wizards' willingness to trade him. So first of all, before we get into it, hi, how are you? And thanks for your time here on the show.
Oh, man, I'm doing great. It's great to be on here, especially considering, we're not at the playoffs yet. So it seems like people are still kind of coming around on the NBA season. The NFL is... And March Madness is still trying to keep the NBA down, but we are trying with Blazers, Wizards, trying to puncture through. We're trying to lift that foot off of our throats and try to make sure that we can get some Blazers, Wizards talk here. I am here for it, Craig.
Yes, indeed. So let me just ask you the neutral version of the question. Like, we're almost a year into this. What do you make of the Deni Avdija trade for both Washington and how it's worked out for Portland?
I think it was a win-win. When you look at Deni Avdija for the Blazers, I had questions about his ability to space the floor when they made the trade. They've got a lot of wing players who have struggled to be a 40% three-point shooter. They got Toumani Camara. They just drafted Chris Murray. They got Jeremy Grant. It seemed like there was a glut of guys who had similar skill sets as Deni Avdija. I did not know how good this dude was. Like, Avdija came in and struggled in the beginning, the first half of the season, to find his way. Chauncey Billups actually benched him, told him, hey, let's forget about it, integrating into the starting lineup. It's been up and down. Why don't we bring you off the bench? You can get your sea legs under you and try to get your comfort in the offense. And once he did that, I think it was around mid-November, Deni went nuts. He turned into this, give me the ball and I am going to bulldoze my way down the middle of the paint. No one's going to stop me. And he just became the best player on the Blazers. So it's really amazing to watch how he has developed this season, progressed this season too. He is playing at an all-star level right now at age 24. He's averaging 26 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists, almost 6 assists over his last 3 games coming into this Wizards game. And at 24 years old, there's only a handful of guys in NBA history who have done this at this age and did not make multiple All-Stars. So if you are having this type of production where he had 34 points and 16 rebounds and 6 assists, and then just continue to play at that level, you just don't get that many guys who aren't, all-NBA, multiple all-star talents who are able to do that. And Deni Avdija is doing that right now. And I didn't see this coming, especially after the first couple months of the season. it looked like Deni was struggling to find his way. He had some weird yips around the basket, like he wasn't finishing at a high level. But what he does well, and the Turbo nickname that y'all gave him, is 100% accurate. He is a guy that is going to beat everybody down the floor and get to the rim and he has more and ones than any player in the NBA since the All-Star break. That is who he is. And given the price tag of giving up, the not just the 2024 first round pick or the lottery pick, which ended up being Bub Carrington,
right.
Also the 2029 first pick. At first, I was like, man, that's a pretty big investment by the Blazers. But now I see it. This guy is a future All-Star.
So I don't disagree with you, but I will now put on my bad guy hat, because every time Deni has a good game, I know about it, because I went on a mini rant the draft, basically saying, because Wizards fans were freaking out that they gave up on Deni Avdija. And my rant was essentially, Deni Avdija by Wizards fans is overrated. Not that he is not good, because Deni's a very good player. Not that he's not young, not that he was on a great contract. But this is a guy that I think on a true championship team probably caps out as a 4th or 5th starter or like an elite bench player. He's really good. That is a really important piece of a championship roster. But I don't know that he's the 3rd. He's definitely not the 2nd or the primary piece on a true championship team. That is a very, very high bar. And it's funny, I say I know when Deni has a good game, because the Deni stands leave a comment or two every single time on that rant. It gets caught up in the algorithm.
There's a lot of Deni stands, I'll tell you.
There are. And look, I get it. He's a player from a country that does not produce a lot of NBA players. I understand there's geopolitics at play, and there's a million other things that go into some of the reasons why people are fans at Deni, and I do not begrudge that. And by the way, personally, I love Deni. I loved having him here. He's a great interview, great dude. Zero problems personally with Deni. I'm just realistic about what I think he is as a player and how hard it is to be better than the level that I just described in the NBA. It is a very rare talent. And like, he had stretches here where he's doing what he's doing right now. They just weren't as long as maybe what he's doing right now. So what are you seeing that you think that this higher level of play that could get him on an all-star team, that could get him poking around an all-NBA team if it's what it's been the last 3 games? Obviously, it's just 3 games. But this, like, since post-all-star level, why do you think this is sustainable in a higher way that he could push up to that higher level in the long term? Because he is still just 24.
Yeah, so since the All-Star break, he's averaging 28 and 5 on 50% shooting from the floor and 40% shooting from downtown. That piece where he's able to space the floor on those kickouts is the kind of piece that I was curious about, because I know that he's a battering ram at the rim. He's a guy that he's very fast. He has this knack for physicality that you rarely see, especially, for a young guy. Usually these guys, when they come in and they're just bigger than everybody else at 27, 30 years old, then you get that kind of no one's going to stop me attitude, and I'm going to seek contact. I did not realize that this guy was such a magnet to contact. He loves lowering his shoulder and going straight into you. Duncan Robinson talked about this on his podcast over at JJ Redick's site, where he was like, that dude, Deni Avdija, is so strong. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear on this program, but he was
but luckily we're taping and I can bleep it out. So everyone knows what Tom just said.
Yeah. And Duncan Robinson was like, this guy put me in a body bag. And he didn't even, I think it was even an offensive foul that Duncan Robinson drew an offensive foul on Deni. But his point was, this guy is so strong. And you see it routinely. He had a game-winning or potentially game-winning and one against the New York Knicks over the weekend. And that's just who he is. He puts his shoulder into you. He's not pushing off. He's just going to go straight into you rather than do a Euro step. And he's going to power through. There is a question of how consistently can he do this and whether he's a 1 or a 2 on a championship team. That is less concerning to me, considering that contract. The contract that they are on, the Blazers are on with Deni Avdija, $15 million for this season, $14 for next, $13 for the season after that, and then $11.8 million in 27-28 at age 27. So he's going to be coming into his prime, age 27 years old, and he's going to get paid the fewest that he's going to be paid for the rest of his career. If he was on the open market, I'm convinced that Deni Avdija at 24 years old, if he was a free agent this summer, he'd be getting $30 to $35 million based on his impact so far.
No doubt.
So the Blazers are like, dude, if we get this guy for the next 4 years playing at, let's call it 18, 8, and 5, basically he's a threat to be a 20 and 10 and 5 guy every single night. May not get those averages, but in the same way that Jalen Williams for the Thunder, you would normally not say, like, dude, this guy's an all-NBA player, all-star player. But if he has the right pieces around him, he could be, I think, Jalen Williams is the kind of the comp for Deni Avdija. Is a guy who on ISOs, he's strong, he's big, he's not afraid of anybody. Can he be Jalen Williams for next to a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? The Wizards don't have that guy, and the Blazers, as it appears, don't have that guy. Is that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, that magnet, that heliocentric number one, that 1A, 1B guy. And next to that, can Deni Avdija or Jalen Williams or someone like that win a championship? I think that's best case scenario. But for Deni Avdija, he is playing like an all-star caliber player. And I wonder if Tyler Hero, if the all-star was given out after the season, I think there would be more votes for a Deni Avdija than there is for a Tyler Hero. And unfortunately, the way the NBA works is you only have to be good for 20, 25 games in order to make the all-star game. But I wonder if the second half of the season was being voted on for All-Star, I would bet that you get a lot more people clamoring for Deni Avdija votes.
Tom Haberstroh with us here on the Hoffman Show. So the other thing with him is, like, he's putting up these numbers on a bad team. And again, like, you watch it every day, which is why I want to have this conversation with you, because I respect your basketball opinion, and you actually are someone who has watched a ton of Blazers basketball, which I don't know how that's going for your health, but they're not having the best of seasons. And the thing about the NBA is, like, there's going to be 100 possessions-ish per game per team, and someone's got to use those possessions. And so if you're the best guy on even a bad team, you can accumulate numbers. So I guess the long-term question before we switch over to what we make of the Washington side of this equation, because I want to get your take on that as well, is, like, is the way that Deni's playing, is what he's doing, if he was getting the help that he was supposed to get from some of Portland's other young players that have been disappointing, would this be winning basketball?
Yeah, I mean, it has been winning basketball, or at least 500 ball for the last 2-3 months. So the Blazers got off to a horrible start, and then they won 10 out of 11 games. And since January 1st, so the calendar year 2025, they're 18-18 with a positive net rating, which is better than the New York Knicks, which is better than half the league. Like, this is a team that's been playing good basketball, maybe not title contention basketball, but they've been playing better than most of the teams in the NBA for the last 3 months. So they are better than just a bad NBA team. So I hear you that, like, he's putting up these numbers for a bad team on the whole season, but since Donovan Clingan was getting a lot more minutes and Tamani Kamara has been playing like a defensive player of the year candidate, this team has been much better. And so Deni Avdija has been a winning player over the last couple months. And I don't think he's going to, lead this team to a 60-win season next year. But you can see that, if they continue to develop this Blazers team, they're going to be a winning team next season. They still need to find their guy. And I think Deni Avdija is developing into that. Like, they don't have a guy who's averaging 20 points a game this season. Anthony Simons is close to that, but they still are looking for that, like, franchise cornerstone. And Deni Avdija is making his case right now.
Yeah, and of course they were hoping that Scoot Henderson would be that, Anthony, Deni, like there's some options there that of the young talent, but we'll see if anybody develops or if they acquire someone else and what's a deep draft, and obviously see what kind of other maneuvers can be made. So when you look at Washington side of it, because that's the other thing, of course, Deni stands and Portland fans will like, whoa, yeah, okay, Wizards guy. It's like, yeah, the Wizards are bad on purpose, and boy, are they good at being bad this year. But when you look at the decision that Will Dawkins made as the general manager to say, okay, Deni, we are selling high. He is good. This contract is insane. Anybody else is going to want it. We got the return, and kind of making the math work on the timeline, right? When Deni's going to have to get paid, that's when they want to start being good. And that's 3-4 years from now. They're hoping they're like really good then. And then, are there pieces that are better fit for the timeline? So what do you make of the Washington side of it? Do you buy kind of that argument, if you will?
Well, the 2029 first round pick, initially it sounds like, oh, that could be, top 5 pick, but actually it's the second most favorable of 3 different picks. So it has a pretty medium floor there. Is that when you're looking at the potential of that pick, it's the second most favorable of Portland, Milwaukee, and Boston in 2029. I'm going to bet that Boston is probably not going to be in that mix of like, you're going to be excited about getting Boston's pick. So it's going to come down to the Milwaukee side and Portland. You're betting, you're shorting those 2 franchises in 2029 with Giannis Antetokounmpo and with Chris Middleton out. And Damian Lillard is at, the downside of his career, the back 9 of his career. You can talk me into saying that Milwaukee pick could be pretty good if Giannis is like, yo, I want to play with Steph. And then he goes off to Golden State and they just rebuild. There's a big potential for Milwaukee to rebuild, which makes that pick really valuable. But the problem is you're only getting the middle of those 3 picks. So if Milwaukee is a top 5 pick and Portland is a 14 pick, you're going to get the 14 pick that year in 2029. So it's kind of the ceiling of that pick is mitigated somewhat by the way they structured that deal. But you also got Bub Carrington, who's, I think he's 20. Did he turn 20?
Not even 20 yet.
Yeah. See, this is the thing about Bub is like, as good as he is right now, and we're seeing this with Scoot Henderson when he was this age last year, it's so hard to grade these guys without thinking about their age, but you have to do it. Is like, even though Bub Carrington has shown some promise this season, he's going to get so much better next year. And so when you're making a bet on a guy who's 18 years old coming into the draft and still just 19 years old, I think this is a solid return for the Wizards. And at the time, I would have said, this is a big risk considering Deni Avdija's contract going forward. But, I guess my point is there's no high upside of winning the lottery with the trade package. But
Right.
if you do the draft right, you could get, a really good player. Donovan Clingan is a really good player that the Blazers didn't get with a top 5 pick. And Bub Carrington, also a really good player that they didn't need a top 5 pick. So on the Wizards side, I understand the thought about this deal. I just don't think, I guess I quibble with your Craig, the way it's like, if he's not the number 1 guy on a NBA team, a championship team, or a number 2 or number 3, then you got to get rid of him. I think that's tough. That's tough if you're a GM, if you're always looking at it like, if I don't see a reasonable trajectory as like the number 3 or number 4 on a championship team, then I got to sell.
Well, I think it's also where you are in your timeline, right? Because for the Wizards, like they don't have any of those pieces right now, right? Do they have the 1, the 2, or the 3? And it's like, if this guy's already our 4, and he's going to, by the way, because he's the best we've got, he's going to eat a bunch of possessions. What does that mean for the development of our young guys? Like, I actually go back to what you said at the beginning. I think both teams won. I think it's possible that you can have 2 teams at 2 separate timelines that need different things, and they can help each other out. And if you look at Bub Carrington as a young, cost-controlled asset with a super high upside, and Deni was a guy that they had a glut at that position, just like you thought Portland might. They knew they had Bilal, who they wanted to have the ball in his hands a lot more this year. And so they needed to kind of clear a way for the development of their wings. They wanted to say, and they're also looking 3 years down the line when eventually Deni goes from the best contract in the league to a guy they're going to have to pay. Do we want to pay him at that point, or is he going to be pricier than what we want because of other moves we've made? And so there's an amount of both development and flexibility and selling high on the asset. Not to say that like, hey, we don't believe Deni can become really good, but is he going to become really good in the way we want for our championship team in the timeline we want? And I think that's something I've come to appreciate about how the Wizards think about this. And there's no telling that they're going to be right in the end, for sure. Like sometimes they sound like they're the smartest guy in the room, and I don't, or smartest guys in the room, and I don't always mean that as a compliment in the way that phrase is not always complimentary. But I do think they do a good job of thinking 1 to 2 steps ahead of like, all right, hey, can we turn these second-round picks into a late first? Because then we can trade from the late first into the lottery. And if we're stuck with a couple of seconds on draft night, we can't get to the lottery. So, like, I think of that with that 2029 pick, too, is like we're still grading the test in the middle. And it might be not until 2032 with the way the Wizards are, if they can win this lottery and get Cooper Flagg, and we're in 2025, what's Cooper Flagg in year 7 in his prime, where we really understand going back in the same way that like when Tatum and Brown just won that title and we're going back to some of the trades with Paul Pierce and KG, they were like, oh, now we see the big picture the way the Celtics did it. I think that's the kind of timeline we're on with the Wizards, which makes defending it very hypothetical in the meantime, if you will.
Yeah, and this is the thing is the Blazers, I don't think thought they were going to be this good this year, like playing basically 500 ball for the better part of the season, where they're like, yeah, the Blazers looked at this season where it was like, we just want development from our guys. And now it's like, oh, Donovan Clingan can play right away.
Right.
Oh, Scoot Henderson's taken a big leap this year. And Deni Avdija is a legit all-star. We can see an all-star future with this guy. And I don't think they saw that it was going to be this good this season. And they didn't do anything at the trade deadline, which I think was a signal that they really believe in this core group. Now, there's downsides to that in the sense that you're not going to have as good of a draft pick this season, potentially, because there's just not as many ping pong balls if you're the 14th best team in the NBA versus the fourth worst team in the NBA. And so the Wizards are making a clear decision, which we've talked about 100 times on this program, is like pick a lane, pick a vision.
Yes.
And they definitely made their decision. I mean, I think the Deni Avdija trade is that's it on a billboard, is like, this is our direction. We are going to break this thing down to the studs. No more trying to make the play in every single season or try to be the 8th seed every single year and just get blasted in the first round. And I applaud that. It takes a lot of guts. And it's year 2, maybe 3 of this
year
project.
2.
So this is when it's like the fan base is still behind you. It's just whether this continues in year 3 and in year 4, where we're all looking at OKC and saying, that's the goal. That's the model. We're all going to be OKC. But at the same time, you could be the Charlotte Hornets or you could be the Sacramento Kings, where like, even if you do get a couple guys, you're still going to be in that hamster wheel of mediocrity that you do not want to be in the NBA. And so that's what I hope for the Wizards, is that they hit on a couple of these picks, and Coulibaly and Bub Carrington. They are still so young. And I hope the audience there in DC can preach the patience that you need, because it's not going to be overnight. And I think OKC is an extremely, extremely outlier situation. And I really hope fan bases don't look at what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren and Mark Daigneault are doing and Sam Presti are doing in OKC and saying that's the blueprint. I mean, that's like saying we need to get a LeBron in the next year's draft. That does not happen.
That is
even
the
though I'm big on Cooper
right?
Flagg.
Like, that's the thing, is like, without one of them dudes, you're never winning anyway. So like, going all in and to get one of them dudes, which the Wizards have really stocked up in 2025. And obviously you're trying to make sure that they are in the best lottery odds possible for this year on a loaded draft. 26 is supposed to be loaded. So like, these next 2 drafts are the make or break, but ultimately you come down to some ping pong balls. The Wizards were also 1 ping pong ball from Wemby. So
I know.
That is pain.
Pain. And the Blazers were right there with Scoot Henderson at number 3. And they're happy with Scoot Henderson, but like watching Wemby. And dude, the scariest thing right now, dude, Wemby and Cooper Flagg.
I mean, it could happen.
De'Aaron Fox just opted for surgery.
Yeah.
And the Spurs have the Atlanta Hawks pick as well. So you combine those 2 odds and you're looking at like, they have like the top 8, maybe top 5, close to top 5 odds on landing Cooper Flagg. And look, you and I both know, like, Tim Duncan, how he landed on the Spurs is looking a lot similar to the situation in San Antonio. So I hate to say it to the Wizards fans, because I'm based in Charlotte and Charlotte fans hear it all the time too. They never get lottery luck in the right year. And man, the Spurs are, from a lottery standpoint, they're terrifying.
They're somehow good at a lottery, which in life, I wish I could be good at the lottery. Tom Aberstro, he's good at breaking down basketball. Search for The Finder. That is his newsletter. It's great. I get it every day. It is a must read if you're an NBA fan. Of course, he's also part of the Blazers TV coverage, which is why we had him to talk about this Deni trade from all angles. Tom, appreciate you're very generous with your time, sir. Very much appreciated, and I will talk to you soon, my friend.
Thanks, buddy.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Tell your mama I said what's up.
It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. We'll get to what else happened this weekend, aka our weekend in review, coming up in about 10, 12 minutes. But right now, let us let you hear from your new left tackle, assuming that you are a Commanders fan. Laremy Tunsil introduced today, officially acquired over the weekend. That's when the trade was announced. And Anthony, where were you? Or did you get the email? Are you on the distro list from the Commanders when this email came out?
Yeah.
Where were you when you got the email?
I was sitting on my couch, actually.
Oh, I was at the zoo. I was sitting there as my 3-month-old niece was getting a bottle, as we had paused somewhere around the sea lions at the National Zoo.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, Laremy Tunsil is officially a Commander. Hey, look, a sea otter. Too stupid to make up. So if you thought you saw me at the zoo on Saturday pushing a stroller, I did. Not my child, just my niece. She's dressed as a little bear.
Nice. Did you have any accessories? Did you have like some ears or?
No, I
Okay.
didn't have anything. She just was dressed in a cute little bear.
I thought you guys were going to match or something, you know?
No, I don't need to look like a bear.
Nice.
I'm gonna save that for the 3-month-old. Who it was very funny because it was my sister's friend. It was her first trip to the zoo because she's 3 months old, and she obviously won't remember it because she's 3 months old. But she kept sleeping every time we went past the elephants, and my sister was like, "Come on," because my sister's favorite animal growing up was an elephant. Anyway, the point is that Laremy Tunsil talked to the media today, answered a bunch of questions from the Commanders reporters on Zoom, including starting with one of the big questions that I think folks had about his game, which the penalties last year. But first, let's just get the big picture thoughts from new Commanders left tackle Laremy Tunsil on being traded from the Houston Texans to the Washington Commanders.
I've been in this position before with the Miami Dolphins getting traded to Houston. So what I learned, don't take anything personal. It's just strictly just a business. And I actually, before I left the building, I talked to those guys, D'Amico and Nick, and pretty much they're just trying to keep the young guys together. As simple as that. When I was a rookie and I was talking to my OG, who was Brandon Albert and Jermon Bushrod and Mike Pouncey, they told me it's a young man's game. And, I've seen it for myself. They drafted some young guys and they hit on every draft pick. They're trying to keep those guys together. So I fully understand. Like, they just paid Stingley today. Like, they just gave that boy that bag. So I truly understand. Like, it's no hard feelings. Like, at the end of the day, it's a business. You know what I mean? I don't take anything personal. There's no hard feelings against the Houston Texans. I thank them for just putting me in this position, and I thank them for everything they did for me and my family and changing my life. So, I get it, man. When I was with Miami, I didn't get the courtesy call from Miami. I kind of woke up out my nap and got traded. So at least this time was a little bit different. So
I think that it's great that he got, to talk to those guys on the way out. They're like, hey, man, look, this is what it is. And he gets it. This is a business. I always do think it's nothing personal. Because if Laremy Tunsil was so undeniably great that, like, he would help you, they are trying to win right now, they wouldn't have traded him. They clearly are okay with taking the risk that Derek Stingley is worth paying and that they're obviously going to have to pay Will Anderson and they're going to have to pay C.J. Stroud possibly as soon as next offseason. Those guys will be going – wait, hold on. They just finished their second year? Yeah, next offseason. After 3, you can start talking about extensions. With those guys. So at the end of the day, like, it is something where if he was undeniably the best left tackle in football and their offensive line had not been a nightmare last year, they trading Laremy Tunsil? Probably not. But is it the best move for the Houston Texans right now to let him get a fresh start, for them to get a fresh start in that O-line room, and then for them to open the cap to do things like they did today for Derek Stingley, making him the second highest paid corner in the NFL? Yeah. Probably the right move all around. So what kind of impact can he make here in D.C.?
I mean, honestly, I think I can make a huge impact. Just talking from a player standpoint, what I bring to the table, pass protector, a damn good run blocker, a leader. I can be a mentor to the young guys in the O-line room, D-line room, doesn't matter, in the position group. I think I can make a huge impact quickly, honestly. In my opinion, I think they traded for me for that reason, just to make a huge impact on the team. So, I'm down to do whatever they want me to do, especially at year 10. If they need me to play quarterback and back up Jaden Daniels, then I can do that, running back, whatever.
Oh, so we got a sense of humor on this guy. Hey, Anthony, we know he can be an agent. He does his own deals.
Hey, he was a receiver in college too, man. He caught a passing touchdown at Ole Miss, so he's very versatile.
Look, he's a freakish athlete, dude.
Yeah.
Let me put it this way. Do I think Laremy Tunsil could play NFL running back? No, I don't think that's a good idea. Would I want to have to tackle Laremy Tunsil if they decided to hand him the ball? Also, no. Would not want to have to tackle Laremy Tunsil. I do think it's kind of funny, two things in there. One, he made sure to say, hell of a run blocker. That's been a thing where people think he's not good. I think the problem for him perception-wise when it comes to run blocking, he's not as good of a run blocker as he is a pass blocker. It's because he's the best pass-blocking left tackle, arguably, in the entire NFL, and he is a simply very good run blocker. He's not devastating in the way that Trent Williams is and was. So it's not like he's the best run blocker in the league. He's just a really good run blocker, but when you're the best pass protector, all of a sudden it's like, oh, why are you only scoring in the 70s there when you're the 90s over here? And it's like, you realize that there's 10 other guys in the league that score in the 70s? Like, on the PFF grades? Like, he's still really, really good at that. So I think that's the kind of thing about the run blocking. The other thing that I found funny about that is, hey, I'm ready to mentor, I'm ready to do this. That's been a criticism too, and I don't know whether that's him hearing it or whether he's at a different point in his career, but we'll see on that one. But it is at the very least nice that he seems open to the idea because he does have a lot to offer. He has been in the league a long time, and he is a very good player.
Yeah, I think today he was definitely trying to address all of the criticism, from Houston to here. And even, he talked about, and it's not in the cuts that I put in the folder, but he talked about, wanting to be an all-pro and, he's never been earned that award and things of that nature. So, he's hearing it all. And only I think he wants to, prove to everybody that he can be those things that people said he couldn't be.
Look, and on the all-pro thing, we know that it helps your cause to be on a good team, right? You can be an all-pro. All-pro, the voters, the AP, do a really good job of trying to identify the truly best players. But if he has an elite season on this team and they finish similarly to where they did in the standings last year, high up in the NFC, 12-win type of team, Laremy Tunsil has a great shot at becoming an all-pro. Obviously, he'll be doing that by protecting Jaden Daniels. Here's his thoughts on playing with his new QB.
I can tell you this, I damn sure can't wait to block for Jaden Daniels. He's a baller, and just from seeing this on TV and watching film, and he seemed like he's a better dude, too. And just hearing that from a lot of people just around the locker room and his teammates from LSU, I know a couple of those guys. Just a good person, a baller, so I can't wait. Go make my job hella easy.
Yeah, you just block, and if you miss, you go, Jaden, watch out, and then he runs away. That's a neat trick. Love that. Last but not least, the one big issue for him on the field last year was the penalties. He was asked about those today.
I kind of just challenging myself to find new challenges in my game to get better at. And so every year I try to find something I can do this better, or I want to do this better, or I want to be known for this, or so I kind of just put that chip on my shoulder by myself. It's really just me versus me at the end of the day. Especially it's a lot of things I want to work on, like those 19 penalties I had last season was unacceptable. So that's something I want to address for sure, getting that number down or even having none. I want to keep growing as a player, honestly, as a pass blocker, a run blocker. It doesn't matter. I'm always trying to improve in each of those fields. So.
We'll see if he can do it. I mean, last year he was definitely trying to jump the snap a lot. That's where he got a lot of the penalties were false starts. And I don't know whether that was something with CJ's cadence where he and Tunsil weren't on the same page, the center. But he's a guy that likes to really try to get off the ball quickly. And that helps him be as great as he is. but you got to get it right. And so I'm sure he and Jaden will work on that. Bobby Johnson, Cliff, like all those guys will get in that room together and they will figure that out, because that is just the kind of operation that they're now running in Ashburn. When we get back here on the Hoffman Show, what else happened this weekend? We got a final tonight in the hottest new league in sports. We had a crazy opening weekend in Formula One. We had the NWSL's opening weekend. We'll get you caught up on everything else that happened outside of the world of football and the March Madness this weekend next. And then Anthony and I have a very fun game to play March Madness adjacent coming up at 6 o'clock.
UCLA was able to beat South Carolina in Westwood. But I think a lot of people.
It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. Coming up at 6 o'clock, Anthony and I have a fun game we're going to play that is around March Madness. And it's at our own expense from a humor standpoint. It could be quite embarrassing. And I, for one, am looking forward to it.
I am too, sir.
Okay, excellent. I'm glad that makes two of us because there's only two of us that work on this very silly show. Now time, Anthony, for our weekend in review, or as we like to call it around here, what else happened this weekend? Brought to you by
Nobody, Craig.
Yeah, no, same folks that bring you the weekend preview. Funny enough, how that works. It's nobody. So Anthony, where do you want to start? We got Unrivaled. We got the NWSL, the Washington Spirit, kicking off their season, as well as the rest of that league. We got Formula One, and then obviously we had all the basketball. We talked about that a little bit earlier. We had some NFL news. We talked about that during the show. Anything else that happened this weekend that is of note that was on your radar?
Nah, I think you touched on everything.
Okay, so I'll go chronologically. We'll start with the Spirit. They opened up on Friday night with a win, 2-1 victory over. Oh God, who did they play? Why am I now blanking on this? Houston, who looked way better than they did last year. Last year, Houston was like barely a professional team, Anthony. Like, they didn't know where their coach was half the year. And I say that not proverbially. Like, it was just kind of like, yeah, he's not with the team. And everyone's like, where is he? And they're like, I don't know. So that was Houston last year. They looked way better, but Washington able to get it going. And score a couple of goals, win 2-1, hold on. Houston did get one in the second half back. Washington's home opener is this Saturday night against Kansas City. Kansas City just absolutely destroyed Portland. I think it was 5-1 was the final in their season opener. So a lot of the teams that we expect to look really strong, and obviously we'll see how these teams come together throughout the year, but that's going to be a banger on Saturday night, 7:30 at Audi Field, Washington and Kansas City. Then we had the Formula One race was bananas, Anthony. Did you take in any of this this weekend or see anything about it?
I did not. I was heavily glued in on all the tournaments.
Well, this one was not when the tournament was happening because it was overnight Saturday into Sunday because they were racing in Australia. So the whole time change thing.
Oh, yeah. I was asleep probably. Then.
Yeah, you were asleep. So was I, but I woke up and watched it on demand. So it's a hard one. Can't check Instagram. Can't check any of the social media unless you want to know what happened. Like, the simple version is Lando Norris, who was the best car for most of the year last year, but had dug a big enough hole early that he wound up finishing second in the championship. He won pole on Saturday, won the race on Sunday. But that does not remotely tell the story of what happened. It was a rain race. So they do something called a formation lap, Anthony, where the cars line up, they all take one lap around, and then they line up again, and then they go. So, obviously, the formation lap, they're just trying to get a little heat in the tires, make sure they got a feel for the car, make sure everything's working. On the formation lap, there was a crash. Car spun out, got into the wall. One of the rookies felt terrible for him. Out of the race before it even begins because the rain was so nasty in Australia. And it's extra bad when the rain is in the first race because they've barely driven these cars. They've driven them in testing, which is like 1 3-hour block. That's it. And so new cars in the rain, bunch of new drivers, multiple guys spun out. They wound up having the first real racing lap. It took them 3 times to finally get going. Then when they did, there was a key point late in the race where do we put on the rain? Like it finally started to dry out. Some teams were starting to go to slicks, the regular racing tires, and then go back to do we go back to the rain tires? And freaking Ferrari, man, who is the most storied team in Formula One. They have Lewis Hamilton now, the best driver in the history of Formula One. And they have the worst strategists in the entire sport, it feels like. They always pick the wrong thing. They screw themselves over. Lewis is like furious on the radio, being like, you guys didn't tell me there was going to be more rain. They kept their cars out with the wrong tires too long. They wound up finishing 8th and 10th. Lando Norris and McLaren to win the race. Chaos. pure uncut Formula One chaos.
A lot of drama, man.
So it is. It's why it's the best. It's a fun sport because there's a lot of drama, a lot of silliness that happens, and it was a full-on silly weekend. Then last but not least, last night, Unrivaled, the 3-on-3 league with some of the best women's basketball players in the world. Anthony, were you watching Unrivaled last night?
So I started watching when I saw, I think the Owls were up. They were up
so
like
you missed
10.
You missed the first game.
I missed the first game, but I saw the second game. They were up 10. I'm just like, bro. And
And then Vinyl came back. Ryan Howard and everybody came back. I missed the end of that game. What I did see.
Oh, you missed it?
What I did see was the first game when Chelsea Gray lost her damn mind.
Yeah.
One of the best individual performances you will ever see in any sport for anything. She just it felt like she scored every point for an entire half of basketball.
She's so clutch.
She just came up. It was one-on-one, and then there's a couple times they try to double her, but she's the freaking point god, so she of course delivers dimes, gets her teammates bucket. They were down 17, and she single-handedly brought them back to make the final. And then in the second game, which I did not catch the end of because it ran late, and I don't run late. Lunar Owls, who have been the best team in the tournament, Nafisa Collier, tournament MVP, named earlier in the day, they're up 10, and then Vinyl, the other team, comes back, and now those two teams are going to face off tonight in the championship.
I couldn't believe they actually came. And the Owls, they had only had one loss all season long, and for them to choke, basically, you're up 10. You only need 10 more points, and they just couldn't get the job done.
It's crazy. I know Fee was a little banged up. Did the ankles start to bother her?
A little bit, but
you got to get through it.
You're out there. You got to play through it.
Got to play through it. So tonight, Rose versus Vinyl. I think it's 7:30 on TNT is the coverage. Going to be a lot of fun for the Unrivaled final. That league it's the best launch of a league that's ever happened.
Yeah,
and there's a million circumstances of why that is true. But if you have not watched Unrivaled yet, watch it tonight on TNT. It's so good. Best players in the world, balling out, 3-on-3. It's phenomenal. All right, when we get back, the worst NCAA tournament game ever or the best NCAA tournament game ever? Hoffman Show. We are on the Team 980. We are always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. It is time for us to play a game on this very silly radio show. And Anthony, I will admit I have a little bit of mixed feelings about this game that we're about to play. And here's why. When I was younger and just a younger broadcaster, a younger person, a younger human, younger sports fan, it used to really drive me nuts when broadcasters, sports broadcasters, who I felt like were supposed to know stuff about stuff, didn't. When I was like, I know more about this than you. Why don't I have your job? And they'd like make fun of how much they didn't know. And now I'm about to become that broadcaster. But there's just a reality that, especially for me as a local host, like my number one thing that I feel like I'm responsible for to do my job is to be a bona fide expert to the best of my abilities on the Washington Commanders. And I think on this show, we do a remarkably good job at that. We have a lot of resources, including the fact that I get to talk with Logan Paulson a lot, but also great friends that I made on the beat and connections and sources that I made while I was on the beat. And I've done a lot of studying, and I make sure that when it comes to the Washington Commanders, that I can comfortably say, like, I know what the hell's going on. I have a good view on things, and that is why most of you come to this show. I also try to do that for the Wizards because I'm someone who has covered the NBA for a long time, knows basketball really well, and, like, I make no bones about that. If you're going to be that into one thing, there's going to be other things that you're not as good on. And as my life has gone on and the farther away I've gotten from college basketball is something that has just not been on my radar as much. And thus, every year, March Madness comes around, and you would think you would turn into your sports talk shows, and they'd be like, oh, all right, let me tell you about the tournament. And, like, Kevin Sheehan's got that covered. He can tell you everything about Maryland and about every other team in this tournament. This ain't that show. And so, while you're caring about college basketball, and also I think there's a realization, Anthony, that there's a lot more people that are like me in this, that they're tuning in for the tournament. They're having a good time. And maybe they're hardcore NFL fans, and that's why they listen to the show. But, like, they want to have some fun with their office pool. They'll brag about it if they win. They won't talk about it if they lose. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I've decided that despite what my 22-year-old self or 24-year-old self might hate about this segment, we're doing it anyway.
Let's get to it.
So here's the game. Anthony and I have in front of us both the men's. I don't know if I'm actually holding up the men's. Oh, no, that's the women's. Because I'm backwards. They have the men's and the women's bracket. On there are 32. Actually, it's more than that because of the playing games, but 30 whatever teams on each side. Anthony and I had a draft earlier in the day to pick 5 teams apiece that we're going to play in this guessing game, which doesn't have a name. We didn't bother to think of a name. It's the fun tournament game on the Hoffman Show. Here are the criteria that you can accumulate points in. So we're going to say a team. Then if I say mine, then Anthony's going to try to give me for that team the mascot, the city and state. Those are 2 points. City for 1 point, state for another. That the school is located in. And then can you name the coach and a single player on that team? And I thought this would be fun because Anthony actually does pay attention to college basketball, but there are times that I'm not so sure he knows where anything is on a map. And so...
Good gracious.
You earned that.
You are right, though.
Yeah, I was going to say that like you didn't earn it. And so... From the geography and like the general knowledge standpoint, I think I have an advantage. From a basketball standpoint, he's got an advantage, but I don't know nothing and neither does he, so thus it should be a good time. Are we clear? Oh, the last thing on the rules to clarify here is we are incentivized to pick schools that we know because if, let's say, Anthony gets 3 of the 5 right of a school that I name, I have a chance to steal the other 2. So, are we all clear on the rules here?
Yes, sir.
All right, so with that said, I have a chart made over here to keep track of everything. Of course, I've also, Anthony, pulled up my schools. I just typed them in a Google search, hit a new tab. I didn't look at anything. I didn't even let the pages load, but that way I can correctly go look up the answers on my list. So off we go. Anthony, you had the first pick in the draft. What school am I trying to guess first?
So the first school you're trying to guess is Bryant University. Earl Timberlake, DeMatha Catholic product from here. He plays on that team. He's the player of the year of the American East.
What? Well,
oh, my gosh. I'm giving you points. Sorry.
I wish I was paying more attention. I can't even repeat what you just said back to you.
Bryant University.
Bryant University. Is Bryant University in the state of New York?
It is not.
Son of a gun. I know I am 0 for 5 on Bryant University, to be honest. I don't know what city it's in. I don't know what state it's in. I don't know what time zone it's in. I don't know the mascot. I certainly don't know a player, even though you just said one, someone from DeMatha, and I don't know the coach. So, Anthony, fill it in. How many points are you taking from me here?
All right, so Brian, I actually learned this earlier. It's in, well, not earlier today, like earlier this year.
Okay, I was about to say, you cheating?
Smithfield, Rhode Island.
Okay.
The player I'm going to name is Earl Timberlake.
Old Earl?
Yep, Earl.
Okay.
What are the other two categories?
Coach and mascot.
Oh, Bryant Bulldogs. I don't know the coach.
Oh, I did know that. Son of a gun. I should have just guessed a Bulldog. Yeah. It's a pretty safe guess.
Yep. I don't know the coach, though.
Okay. All right. Do we want to look up the coach?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, why don't you look that up real quick? And then Anthony's got 4 points on the board.
So the coach is, Phil Martelli.
Oh,
I should know that.
Martelli's there?
Junior.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Dang.
I should have known. They literally said his name during the broadcast, too. God dang.
All right, well, that's 4 for you. 0 for your boy. That's a heck of a pick by you.
Yes, sir.
All right. First one for you. I'm going to the women's bracket because I was like, let's see how many players, and I know the coach, can I remember from last year. Plus, you're going to get the state, or you actually are the world's biggest moron. I don't mean that offensively. I'm just saying you're going to get the state, but let's see if you can get the city. How about the Iowa women? How much do you remember from watching however many Caitlin Clark games you watched last year?
Not too much.
Okay. Mascot, Iowa.
Hawkeyes.
All right, that's 1 point for Anthony. Good. City?
I don't know.
Des Moines.
Yeah, I wasn't going to get that. I think I should have just said the capital.
You should have. So that's finally one on the board for me. State?
Iowa.
Okay, good. Excellent job out of you. Not embarrassing. All right, player and coach.
So the player, I know she wears 45.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with the C. Is it something?
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm looking for either Sydney Falter or Hannah Stolke, I think is who you were.
Hannah Stolke!
Yeah. And their coach?
I should know their coach. I don't know.
Jan Jansen. Lisa Bluter retired. It's now Jan Jansen. All right, my strategy worked off.
I got 2 points, though.
And let me double check and make sure that I didn't just mess up the city that Iowa's in. They're in Des Moines, right? University of Iowa. No, it's in Iowa City. Iowa State's in Des Moines. That's not right. Son of a gun. Oh, man. I'm glad I double-checked. I mean, I'm not glad I double-checked. I'm glad I double-checked for my integrity. Oh, that hurts. That hurts. Oh, God. All right, so it's 6-2 after one round. We will finish the game. We have 4 more schools each. It took a while to explain the rules. So now that we're all on the same page, and we know that University of Iowa's in Iowa City, not Des Moines, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll finish the game. Then Dave Johnson's going to join us at 6:30. But first, the latest on the world of women's sports presented to you by Wawa. Chicken how you want at Wawa with customizable, crispy, or roasted chicken sandwiches. All right, it's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are playing either the best or the worst NCAA tournament game that you'll hear on radio or on any other broadcast media today. Very simple trivia game between myself and Anthony. We've picked 5 schools apiece off of the NCAA tournament brackets, and we are competing for points off basic information about the schools, both on and off the floor. Anthony, your next team that you have me to pick. So it's 6-2 after the first round because I thought that Iowa was in Des Moines. It's not. It's in Iowa City. Caitlin Clark from Des Moines. That's why it was in my head. But Anthony, your second team that I am going through this process with is?
Florida.
Florida. Okay.
Be easy.
Yeah, they're the Gators. They're from Gainesville, Florida.
Okay.
So that's 3 points straight away for me. Let's go. Dun. Is Billy Napier their coach?
Nope.
Was he their coach at some point?
I don't know. Think so. I don't know.
Okay.
It's Todd Godin.
Okay.
Do you know her player?
No.
Their best player is Walter Clayton.
Walter Clayton. I'm guessing he's an NBA prospect, considering they're a number 1 seed.
He's nasty.
Yeah.
He can shoot.
I should
really shoot.
I haven't gotten into my NBA draft stuff yet, outside of like knowing Flag and a couple other names. Yeah. All right, so that's 2 more for Ant, but at least I made up ground there. All right, Anthony, your next one. So Wofford College.
I know their mascot is a terrier.
Dang. What else you got?
I need to figure out the state.
City and state, and then player and coach if you got it.
Is it in one of the Carolinas?
I'm not telling you. You got to guess.
I'm going to go South Carolina.
God dang it.
I ain't got the city, though, for you.
Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Yeah, I wasn't getting that, sir.
The next, I grew up not too far from Wofford, which is why I picked it. Spartanburg, South Carolina. Wofford, where Carolina Panthers have training camp every year, at least where they used to have training camp every year. I have no idea who their player and coach on Wofford.
I don't either.
All right, we're not going to take time to look it up. All due respect to Wofford, but we're running short on time. All right, next up, Anthony. Who do I got?
You have the Duke Blue Devil women.
Oh, okay. Oh, first of all, one.
This gonna help you out, Craig.
This is gonna help me out a lot.
I'm helping you out, sir.
But you got 2 on that one, and I got 1 on that one, so it's 11-6. But it's about to be. Well, we'll see.
You should go 5-0 here.
I should go 5-0. I'm gonna go 4. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't know a player. But they are the Duke Blue Devils. They are in Durham, North Carolina. They are coached by Kara Lawson.
I was about to say, you cannot get this wrong, Greg.
And I should know their best player, but I don't.
So one of the players is Jaden Donovan. She went to Sitwell.
Okay. All right. So Ant got a point there for 1. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's now 12-10. Going into your third team, which is Troy. We're going with the men of Troy.
Okay. So Troy Trojans.
Dang it.
They are in Alabama.
Yes.
Is the city Troy?
Son of a... That's where I was hoping to get you. The Troy Trojans from Troy, Alabama. I got nothing on player or coach, so.
Oh, their best. I don't know their best player or their coach.
I don't either.
Hey, come on, Craig.
15-10.
Let's go.
Dang. All right. Who do I got next?
The next team I have is McNeese.
Oh, God. Are they in Tennessee somewhere?
I don't know. I really just picked them because one of their players played at Syracuse, and now he's one of the best players there.
I think they're in, let me give a guess. It's somewhere north of Nashville, I think.
I'll get you right. Hold on.
Nope, they're not. They're in Lake Charles, Louisiana. All right, so that's a no. You got a player?
Yep.
All right, who's the player?
Quadri Copeland.
Okay. So that's a point for Anthony. Did you have the mascot? Because I didn't until I looked it up.
No, I don't know. I don't know the mascot.
And you don't got the coach either.
No.
Dang. Anthony's destroying me in this game.
Well, I only got 1 point because I just knew one player.
It's 16-10 right now with 3 total schools to go.
Okay.
All right. Next up, Anthony. Lipscomb. What you got for me on Lipscomb?
Okay. So Lipscomb. I know where it is. It's in Tennessee. I don't know the city. I only know a couple cities. You got
Come on.
Oh, Nashville,
God,
Tennessee.
Dang it. That's where I was hoping to steal
where it
2
is?
points. Yeah, I was hoping to score 2 points on Nashville and Tennessee, and you got it. My plan has really backfired. I got nothing else on Lipscomb.
I don't know their mascot.
I think they might be the Buffaloes based off the picture. Lipscomb, are they the Bison? Lipscomb, they're the Bisons. So that's 2 more points for Anthony. All right, last 2. I got 1, you got 1. I've already pretty much lost. American. Okay, so we've run into a problem with American here, because I'm gonna give myself 2 points for Washington D.C. because they're here.
Yeah, they are.
And
you should know their coach.
I should know their coach. I don't. I know their general manager's David Aldridge.
Yes.
But there's no city and state because D.C. famously not a state. But I'm giving myself 2 points for D.C.
Okay, that's fair.
Still gonna
Do
lose.
you have a player?
Nope.
So their coach, Dwayne Simpkins.
Oh, God, I did know that. Somewhere deep in my brain.
And then player, Greg Jones. He played locally here. They got a couple, local players.
Of course they do, but you know the high school scene.
Yeah.
Which is why this was smart for you to pick. Dumb for me. This is really embarrassing, Anthony. I'm blanking on their mascot.
Their mascot is oh, come on. The Patriots. I'm pretty sure it's the Patriots.
Well, now that you're like, I'm pretty sure, I feel a little less bad about it. But it's
American
like
University Patriots. I'm 1,000% sure.
That's wrong, Anthony. They're the
I'm
Eagles.
wrong.
Anthony just lost the game. I won the game. Hey!
Oh, no. Eagles.
Yeah,
Eagles. It's American University Eagles.
God, I am.
It's the Eagles, right?
Ugh. This is, yes, it's embarrassing for both of us. All right, last one. I tried to fool Anthony, and I thought, what would be the funniest thing for Anthony not to know basic info about? And I picked an Ivy League school. And then, Anthony, you apparently studied here?
Yes.
Yale.
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I studied there for a summer. But yeah, I was in New Haven, Connecticut for how many weeks? 6 or 8 weeks?
Keeping track of the points anymore. You've won by a lot. Yeah, New Haven.
Bez being the player.
I was between them and Harvard on the women's side, and little did I know, Anthony actually studied at both. Couldn't remember where Harvard was. This is all stuff that happened earlier today. We were setting this up because I tried to revoke this choice, and Anthony was like, "Nope, too late." And he watches Ivy League men's basketball. So Go ahead. Get mascot.
Yale Bulldogs.
Yes. City and state, New Haven, Connecticut. You already said it. You gave me a player. You got their coach too, just to wax it off.
No, I don't have a coach.
Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, Anthony's won the game.
That was fun, Craig.
Even more definitively than Anthony's won the game, I've lost the game. Dave Johnson joins us next.
loose. 3 on the clock for 3. It's there.
Feel like busting loose. Busting loose.
Crossover step back 3. Oh. Jordan Poole. You are cool.
Feel like busting loose. Busting loose now.
On the Hoffman Show.
It's a game day. It's Dave here on the Team 980 joining us from Portland, where the Wizards will take on Deni Avdija and the Blazers tonight. And we'll get into all of that in a second. But Dave, first of all, hello. How are you? How you doing?
No, I'm doing well. And by the way, there's a time change. And,
Yes.
And I'm just reminded of that all of a sudden the phone rings and I'm thinking, oh, I wonder who could be calling me. But it's the Hoffman Show because it is 6:30 Eastern time. And I was surprised 3:30. So I have to remember there's a time change so I don't miss the game.
Yes, you are a 7 o'clock local tip, I believe, tonight, 10 p.m. here on the East Coast, which puts our pregame at 9:45 Eastern, 6:45 for you, Dave. 6:45 for you on whatever device you're looking at right now. But, Dave, we just played a game on our show because we know our strengths on this show, and we could try to break down the brackets by reading a couple articles and then pretending like we know a damn thing. We don't. At least I don't, as the host of this show. So we played a game about the NCAA tournament bracket where we came up with 5 categories, and then Anthony and I each picked a bunch of schools to try to quiz each other, and we wanted to see how you would do at this game. So we have picked one school for you to try to tell us the mascot, the city and state of this school, and then can you name a single player or a single coach, or the head coach of this program? Are you ready to play our game that we've kind of put you in no position to say no to play?
Well, ready is not. By the way, it took me 14 hours to get here yesterday from Washington. That's a whole other story. But I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go.
You can't do worse than I did, Dave. So here's the school. What can you tell us about High Point University? Can you give us their mascot?
Oh gosh, yes. High Point. Oh man. Tell me what it starts with.
It starts with a P.
It's not the Paladins, which is Furman.
No, that is correct. Furman. I grew up very close to Furman, actually.
So, Panthers?
They are the High Point Panthers. Hey, that's 1 point for Dave. All right, where is High Point University located? We're looking for a city and a state. Each are worth a point.
North Carolina.
Yes.
Is it High Point, North Carolina?
It is High Point, North Carolina. Which, Dave, I don't know if you know this, High Point, North Carolina, the furniture capital of the world.
Well, I did know. Well, North Carolina, big time furniture. In fact, years ago, I was doing now I'm going to tell you a boring story that you didn't ask for.
Let's go.
I was trying to do something in Charlotte, and I could not get a rental car. There was no rental car to be had in the state because a furniture convention was going on, and it's the biggest thing in the world. Yeah, it's furniture and textiles used to be North Carolina.
Yep, and I grew up in South Carolina. Plenty of textiles there once upon a time. Not so much anymore because of technology and other things. So, Dave, I'm going to guess a player and a coach. You're not going to have much there, I'm guessing.
No.
Yeah, okay. But hey, 3 out of 5 ain't bad.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'll take that.
Anthony, you got any player or coach? You're going to steal points from Dave like you stole them from me?
Not right now. Not off the top of my head, no.
And by the way, I only know the fact that they're the Panthers because I looked it up. All right, Dave's with us, not to play our silly game, but he did play our game, and he told us a fun story. So there you go. Dave, earlier in the show, we talked about this game tonight, or used the game tonight, I should say, as an excuse to revisit perhaps the biggest news item between these two teams over their entire histories, when you include 2 of them together, at least going back to, like the 70s. When they were both really, really good, and that is the Deni Avdija trade from about 10 months ago. As you watch Deni really play well over especially the last 3 games, but really over the last couple of months here, what has it meant to you to watch him perform at the level he does, and how do you evaluate this trade 10 months later that seemingly did accomplish what each side was setting out to do in it?
Well, I think that's the bottom line. It was a trade where each side set out to do based on where they were in their career. Of course, a young career for him, but I'm just so happy that it doesn't surprise me, and I'm sure it doesn't surprise the Wizards. He was not traded because they thought, all right, we've seen the best of Deni Avdija. They knew that he still had an upside, but this is, as you're seeing with the way Will Dawkins is drafting and trading and specifically drafting, you're not going to be able to keep everyone. And So there are going to be tough decisions to be made, and so and that was a tough decision. And trades are made between teams, not on post game shows. In other words, you can only make the deal if the other team is willing to make the deal. You can't, say people used to call it the post game, say, well, I always trade 3 second round picks for LeBron James or whatever. I mean, in other words, we don't know what other teams, other players might have been interested in, but Deni Avdija was the one that clearly the Blazers wanted for good reason. And it does not surprise me one bit. He's doing doing as well as he did because, quite frankly, the trade caught everyone, including Deni, off guard. But this is as you're building for the future. I'm glad somebody else has to make those decisions because the group of young players that I've been around with this team, I wouldn't want to trade any of them. But you can only play 5 at a time.
And I think that's a huge deal. It's something that we had our pal Tom Haberstroh on, who's a great NBA analyst. I'm sure you're familiar with Tom's work, and he does some work for the Blazers TV broadcast, which is why we had him on to talk about it. And one of the things that Tom and I were talked about is how, well, yes, there's a way that Deni Avdija probably fit their timeline. Even perhaps this contract that he's on is amazing. I understand why the Blazers absolutely want him. I also look at the opportunities created on the Washington side for guys like Bilal to not only play more, but have the ball in their hands more. Looking at it purely through the Washington lens of what the opportunity created was, how do you think this season has played out for guys like Bilal and some of the other wing players that have probably gotten more opportunities simply because there was less of a glut, less competition for minutes, more minutes available, even is probably the better way to phrase that at that position?
No, I think you just summed it up right there, and that was my point about there's only 5 guys you can put on the floor at the same time, or you can only develop so many players at the same time. So again, you look at the other night against Denver, who was involved. Obviously Alex Sar's not a wing player, but Keyshawn George he's making ice water and vein shots. He did the other night against Detroit in the win. There's all our rookies, all the Wizards rookies, and the young players. They're getting more minutes than any other rookies, and it's turning into results. And not always win results. I guess I shouldn't use that phrase because obviously we don't have a good record. Although, last 20 games, 9 and 11, it's been a much different uptick, and which is what you wanted to see toward the end of the season. But these guys are getting opportunities, and again, it's not a PR line or a sales line. They love they're rookies. They're 20-year-old. They cannot wait to get to work every night. This is still a joy for them, and it rubs off on me to be around them. No, they don't like losing because they're not in this league because they're losers. They're in this league because they were winners, but they're going to keep fighting.
Dave Johnson with us here on the Hoffman Show. One thing I loved about this weekend, that game in Denver, Jordan Poole hits the game winner. And then I think it was Bub afterwards was asked about all of it. And he goes, one of our tenets is joy. And that was fun was basically the answer. But the fact that they talk about having fun with each other, what was it like for you? You've been doing this a long time, Dave. You've been through a lot of really great seasons. Obviously, ones like the last couple have been pretty tough. Not a lot of joyous moments. But to get to be on the mic for a moment like that Poole game winner, what was that like for you personally?
Well, but it has been fun the last 2 years. You mentioned Deni Avdija. Boy, was he a great guy to be around, and after games, picking apart and saying, I've got to do better than this or got to do better than that, and they're all like that. And that's just there's no jadedness. That's probably not even a word, but that's what happens when you don't even know what time it is out here in Portland. And they just get after it. And this is, I'm having a blast. And look, I'm having a blast because of the effort and the way they played each night. And because of our situation, or if you're a team bound to the playoffs like Detroit or like Denver, You don't want to lose to the Wizards at home, quite frankly. And your fans have it penciled in as a win, and that's why when you think about the win in Detroit the other night, and Denver, that's they came back from 8 down. I mean, this is the other thing. When I say this team does not give up, I'm not just saying that. You're in Denver, the Mile High City, which has always been a tough place to play, the whole altitude business and all that. You're down by 8. You could easily say, well, they're going to get crushed. They're going to get put away. Finally, the better team will flex and put them away, and that didn't happen.
Dave Johnson will be on the call tonight. Wizards and Blazers coming up. 6:45 is almost the time now, Dave. Here, 3 hours from now, it'll be time there, and that's when you start the pregame.
There we go. And I'm already in game mode.
He's fired up. He's ready to go. We got you ready with our game, Dave.
There we go. Thank you. I love that game. Love that game, by the way.
Yeah. We know our strengths. Our strengths are not giving bracket knowledge. It's playing silly games that make fun of ourselves and make us look very, very silly. And we crush that.
No, and those are good questions. Those are good questions.
Yeah.
Some even play. By the way, former college coaches sometimes have been stumped of what city a certain school is or whatever. Anyway.
I get it. Sometimes it's in the name. Other times you gotta go figure it out. I went 0 for 5 on Bryant, Dave. I don't know if you know anything about Bryant University. I think the funny thing is Anthony told me all the answers, and I think I'd go 0 for 5 again.
So Bryant is in Rhode Island, right, or no?
Yeah, it's in Rhode Island. See, you know more about Bryant than me.
Well,
Bryant
I knew.
Low bar.
Give me the name. I might take a stab at it.
Yeah. All right. So note to self: if we ever get into trouble with Dave or we don't have anything to talk about, we can just play this game again. All right, Dave. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time as always.
Bye.
All right, that's Dave Johnson with us here on the Hoffman Show. When we get back, we wrap things up with real things real people said into real microphones. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. Tomorrow on the show, probably get a little Take Command taste. Logan and I are recording tomorrow morning, so we'll try to give you a piece of our Take Command mailbag here on the show. Or, Anthony, do we just take a question that Logan and I answered, and then we answer it? Which kind of makes you Logan Paulson. How do you feel about that?
It's a lot of pressure.
I feel like we should just play Logan.
Yeah, I was about to say that's too much pressure.
So Take Command on the radio tomorrow. And then this I'm very much looking forward to. Every year around the NCAA tournament, I play Phone a Friend. Because as we clearly established earlier on today, bracket analysis is not where I thrive. Okay? But if only I had a friend who many of you know and love, who called college basketball games all year for ESPN. Oh, wait, I do. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow on the show, Kevin Brown, play-by-play voice of the Baltimore Orioles, but also play-by-play broadcaster for ESPN, has spent the year calling ACC, Big East. What else did he call this year? I can't even remember all the conferences anymore because they've all changed. I'm like, he called that team, but what? The American? He's called the American a lot. I think he does the American tournament, the American Athletic Conference. So, looking forward to that. Kevin Brown on the show tomorrow, boys and girls.
Yes, sir.
And then Wednesday, I think we're going to go take a visit to Denton's office.
Ooh, right. Oh, yeah.
And then we can also do some bracket breakdown then.
Need that.
And then Thursday and Friday, you're going to hear the tournament here on the Team 980. Now, I'm not trying to rub this in, Anthony. I'm just trying to give people the information. I will be off those 2 days. Anthony was asked to come in those 2 days because he's going to help on the Grant and Danny show. So, Anthony, I feel like we should try to play a game with that because I'm an unserious person.
What kind of game is this?
Like, you know when sometimes, Jimmy Kimmel does this, right? Well, he'll have a player on, or they'll call a player and be like, hey, we need you to use this word in a press conference. What if we gave you like a secret word that you have to say at some point while you're on the Grant and Danny show, filling in because they have some people out and you happen to not have a show to do those days.
Yeah.
And so you got asked to hop down the hall.
I think that would be a good bit.
Yeah, I think so. Here's what we need. Tomorrow during Real Things, which will be at 5:45 tomorrow because we're off at 6 because we have Nat spring training, which works because if we do it for this segment, those guys listen to us on the way home. So if they're off at 6:30, we can't do it. So we need to decide and determine this tomorrow while they're still on the air and they don't know it's happening. So hopefully they're not listening right now. If they are, well, you're not going to know what the word is. But we need nominations for a word that Anthony can slip into the Grant and Danny show. I would love two. I'd love a Thursday word and a Friday word.
All right.
And then we just have to remember for you to do it.
Bet, say no more.
All right. And then on Monday, we can play it in a segment we like to call Real Things, Real People Said, into Real Microphones.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5-11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
First Take is not my favorite show, but they do have some funny bits. One of the best ongoing bits is how Shannon Sharp continues to pick the Lakers over the Thunder. This was today's version.
Shannon Sharp standing up and going like this. OKC, UFC, KFC, Lakers are bad. That's what I expect to hear. But instead, I'm hearing a brother hedging his bet. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing.
I did not see LeBron working out.
I
didn't. Hold on. Stephen A., I did not see LeBron working out. Now that I saw the little snippet just before we got this thing and I saw it working out, guess what, Stephen A.? The Thunder, a Boost Mobile bundle, WWE Royal Rumble. Lakers in 5.
So, What was that one? I need that one again.
Why is Perk trying to make a point after that?
I don't know. He should just be laughing because good gracious, what?
What'd he say? Okay, he said
Thunder, a Boost Mobile bundle. WWE Royal Rumble.
Lakers in 5. Incredible. First Take, the show that proves even a broke clock is right twice a day. That's our show. See you tomorrow.